Before we dive into the video, remember to like, comment, and subscribe because it will help my channel a lot, and I'll appreciate you guys a lot for doing so. Imagine spending a lot of time and money in a game for it to just close down and just give you no options really to keep your achievements whatsoever. So this is exactly what's happening to the C server. For those of you who don't know, the C server stands for the Southeast Asian server, and I personally myself don't play on the server, but I do know people who have been, and this has been a long time coming. The thing is that the C server stopped making a lot of events since July. So July was the last event they had, and by the way, this was actually so pretty. My friend Sin Kitty said that the C server's dead, and I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, since July there has not been any events. How can they do that? Why would they do that in the first place? It just doesn't make sense. But literally, the C server is dead. People were scared that the server is going to close, but then other people are like, no, don't worry, they're just trying to figure out something. But unfortunately, they came out with this server closing announcement, and it has been received with a lot of backlash. So there's a reason why the server closing has gotten so much problems. So you can see that a lot of people are unhappy here. You can transfer your data for those who have played on the C server to the Vietnamese or the Thai server, but you don't get any of your achievements. You don't get any of your wardrobe. You don't get any of the diamonds you saved unless you topped up. So what is topping up? Topping up is just another term for buying diamonds. Let's say you bought 100 diamonds. They're only going to let you keep 15 of those 100 diamonds. And for people who were like V10, V15, yeah, tough luck over there because they're only going to get a fraction. Not 100% of what they bought, but only a fraction. Not even 50% of what they bought. That's ridiculous. It's over here in case you guys couldn't see. And there's a maximum amount of 52,500 diamonds. So let's say you aren't a VIP player. Let's say you're just a V0 player. Well, it still sucks for you because a lot of V0 players, if they do end up far in the game, they do save a lot of diamonds. If you're a V0, it means that none of your progress is going to be saved. None of your diamonds you painstakingly saved is going to be saved when you do the transfer. So literally nothing is good for anybody. And for another thing that's so bad about this transfer is that this C server is in English. The translations were apparently very garbage. There was a lot of errors. The names of the characters were wrong, but this was an English server. And a lot of the players in the C server speak English. But the transfer to the Vietnamese and the Thai server, it's not in English. If you told me to read this, I would be unable to tell you what it says. So imagine starting from scratch from a game you spent a lot of time and effort on, and possibly money, and also not being able to read anything on the frickin' screen. I have seen some of the comments below that they're unable to join the server because they can't. Their Google Play doesn't let them because they're in a different country. Honestly, this has been handled extremely poorly. I don't see why the data couldn't be 100% given over. Yes, there might be some suits that they have that the other server doesn't, but to strip them all of everything they achieved and technically all the diamonds they had, this is ridiculous. So I just wanted to make a video on this because I thought that it was so unfair, and I thought that people should know about what's happening. So I'm going to bring you guys to the Reddit page over here. This is for people to discuss, and I found several really good discussions over here. And by the way, Mumu is Momo's name, and I'm just going to go to a few comments. Everybody is affected because whether you bought diamonds, so you're going to lose at least 85% of your diamonds, or if you didn't buy diamonds, you don't get anything. So everybody was screwed. Here's another thread regarding why the C server closed. It gave a lot of insight as to why the C server sucked to begin with. So for the record, the C server wasn't actually created by Elex. It was by another company, and there was a lot of translation errors. Everything was super slow. There was a lot of bugs, and one of the bugs I'm going to talk about after is just, it's ridiculous. It was why the C server wasn't profiting, but they should not have expected to be remotely profitable with how horribly slow everything would load, how the text was literally never formatted properly to stay inside the designated space, and the constant bug issue that they've had in the beginning. Who would sink money into this game? And here's some insight as to why it possibly wouldn't work if the C server was to come to Love Nikki, and it's because Love Nikki has a different publishers. Here is another one. This is like a player who actually played for the C server, and they saved 23,000 stamina and 5,000 diamonds. I think that think this is a pretty cool suggestion, just to keep everything open and just to make it a last parting gift. Here it talks about the different types of bugs there were. So this is the most important bug. The bug prevented many players from making purchases that lasted over a year. How do you expect a game to be profitable if players can't even buy? There was this story where a V15 player lost literally everything due to a game freezing bug and got literally no help nor compensation from support. Support ignored her for months, so she gave up. And then there were weird schedules, and then they didn't have as many nice things, so for some reason WFSM didn't get a map or the diamond postcards. What the heck? There were some reward tiers missing, so everything had to be reset. It was just very buggy, the translations were awful, everything just sucked. And the last thing I want to talk about is that people are wondering what could happen because of the ethics of charging back money spent on the game. You technically paid for something that doesn't exist, and valid reasons for chargebacks include a merchant doesn't deliver a product or provide a service previously paid for. But Ryuki over here has just kind of answered the question above, and it's really sad to see that Elex does not guarantee that any particular product or property of service will be available at all times or at any given time, or that Elex will continue to offer the product or property of service for any particular length of time. Although this is Elex's terms of service and the C server has a different publisher, it's probably the same because a lot of games would want to protect themselves from this in the case they ever need to shut down. I honestly don't know too much about this, but I think that it would cost money to keep an app running or a server open, so maybe that's why the C server can't continue on. My heart goes out to everybody who's struggling during this time. And yes, this is a mobile game, but to a lot of people this is a hobby. This is something that helps relax them. This is something they put a lot of money into or a lot of time into. And it doesn't matter if it's just a dress-up game, because at the end of the day, people still deserve or still can feel a certain type of sadness relating to something that they truly liked or loved and having it just taken away from them just like that. What do you guys think about this whole situation? What do you think would be even better? I don't see why the C server can't just transfer everything, at the very least their diamonds as well, to the other server, but who knows? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you want more information about things that are happening on Love Nikki, whether it be our server or another server, and I'll catch you all later. Bye guys!